Peace and love, family. How is everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining us on another edition of the RAM Book Club, Resurgence of the African Mind, where we seek to liberate African minds by reading one unit of work at a time. As you all know, we are starting off with Blueprint for Black Power by Amos Wilson. Combing through it, family. Combing through it. My name is Lily La Poete Speaks, Alima Njai. Every week, to catch the links, family, you go to www.lililapoetespeaks.com. Go to the Blueprint for Black Power thread, scroll down to the bottom, click the appropriate link if you want to join the panel or if you want to listen in the discussion. Last week, family, we did chapter 15, which is Africa Agonistes. I hope I'm saying that right. We went over the dangerous economic straits of contemporary Africa. We talked about the African-American monoculture. We also talked about some ways that some of the things happen to Africans here and abroad are self-inflicted. This week, family, we're in chapter 16, Investing in and Trading with African Nations. We're going to talk about early American and European investment relations. We're going to talk about Pan-African trade alliances, global policy, the power of investment funds, international trade centers, as well as the possibilities of African Investment Fund. I am the author of Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1, available on lililapoetespeaks.com in hard copy and available on digital copy, ebook on Amazon. Peace and love. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. And once again, thank you for joining us.
Peace, love, and light. Oh, okay. I'm waiting for the camera to come. Peace, love, and light. My name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Dr. Oya. I am the co-founder of Ed Anime Productions, which is a company that creates educational tools for children, and particularly children of color. I'm also an adjunct professor over at the School of Engineering at Morgan State University. I teach digital communications, wireless communications, and that's it. Please, support the Meltrek Project. Go to edanimeproductions.com, and you can purchase the DVDs from there, or you can go to lililapoetespeaks.com and purchase the film from over there. I'm looking forward to this discussion tonight. Sis, I got excited when I read the title and it said Investing in and Trading with African Nations. When I read the title, I immediately thought about Garvey, because that's what Garvey was trying to establish.
That's right.
With the UNIA and how they purchased, I believe it was like 2 or 3 ships in order to transport people back to the motherland, and also to conduct trade between the Africans on the continent and the Africans, abroad. And so when I read the title, that's exactly what I thought about. I thought about, Marcus Garvey and his plan to the plan that he was trying to implement with international trading going on. So anyway, I'm looking forward to this discussion. Dr. Amos Wilson dropped a lot of jewels in this chapter. It's a very short chapter. Typically the chapters are, 20 to 30 pages, sometimes 40 and 50 pages, but this is a very short chapter, but it's short, but extremely powerful. So I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. I feel like I have the itis, sis, because I just left Brother Tawola's home. We had a Kwanzaa celebration there, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, I enjoyed every moment of it. We poured libations. We venerated the ancestors. We talked about the importance of family, community, and culture. We lit candles. We ate. And I just had a marvelous time. I love how Brother Tawola, he opened his home to my family, and we just had a ball. And so we're going to continue to do this for Kwanzaa. And then he and I even talked about learning about Ifa together. I was telling him that I've taken an interest, thanks to Sister Alima and her husband, Black Panther, in learning about Ifa. And so Brother Tawola said that he also wanted to learn about it. So we talked about that while I was there. And it was just an amazing experience. So Brother Tawola, I just want to thank you and your wife, publicly for hosting the Kwanzaa celebration. And, it was just beautiful. Sis, I'm over here. I got cake in my stomach. I got salmon in my stomach.
That's what's up.
Look, I got string beans and salad. And so I'm over here with the itis, but I'm going to push through for tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic going down the line so everyone else can introduce themselves.
Awesome. Brother Johnson Tiwolo To, Baltimore resident. Just here, trying to get the work done, enjoying family, friends. Definitely enjoying the Resurgence of African Mind book club, and ready to tackle chapter 16.
Ashe. Somebody on the end over there. Who's that?
Brother Everin. I hope that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He hit me up a few days ago, and he's like, sis, he said, I want to get on the panel and I want to read. I said, okay, brother. I said, next week, you can get on the panel and you can join us and go ahead and read. So, Brother Everin, thank you, brother, for joining, the panel.
Yes.
How are you, brother?
Thank you. This is my first time on any book club ever in life, but experience nonetheless. And to join this, I had to take the opportunity to jump onto this because this is one very unique and necessary book in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
Like Robert Amos was for the past, I would say 20 more years since he was on this trail to develop type of a literature, a text, a blueprint, a real actual blueprint to how we go, even from 20th century to going on 21st century, how are we going to attain power? Because that is really the end goal. Because without power, you're not secure anywhere you're at. The Asians are all part of Africa right now to speak, having collaborated, interbreeding with our women, trying to have these mulattoes to soon have the inheritance of the land. Same rule applies from Chance Wood's book, Destruction of Civilization, which every Black person, Bible Ower, should read to get understand how the world works and how we still fall and how we still repeat. Because history is repeating itself. What happened in the past shows in the present and in the future. So tonight, and as you know, I don't really have my camera on, but I will be in the coming days as we go through this book club. So I'm just joining tonight, just participate and maybe read a few sections on the book. And bear with me, I'm saying, as I go through.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother. Was that it, or?
As I tell people, as bear with me as when I get a chance to read, how I go through read it, just so people can understand as I read each section with y'all. It's okay.
Fantastic, brother. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you on the panel, brother. And I know you and I have been, inboxing each other for the past, few weeks, and you were very excited and anxious, to join us. And so I'm happy that, you finally were able to make it on the panel. And so we appreciate your prep. Look at brother Black Panther. What's up, Black Panther?
Pantherwear.com. This is a plug, and it's a shameless plug. I don't care. Pantherwear.com. Come get your shoes.
Let me go get my tennis shoes.
Yeah, go get your shoes. Go on, stun on them.
Let me go get my shoes real fast. Hold on.
I'm a Rock Squad takeover. Spears is flying. Mossy Warrior Clan in the building. Y'all know what it is. Takeover. The break's over.
Get out of here.
This is a plug. You got to plug your stuff, but you didn't plug me. You got to plug your stuff.
I know, baby. You're right. I'm going to get it together.
She's going to get the shoes. You got to tell them about the shoes. Yeah. Oh, look at that box. Woo!
So my shoes came. Yeah, had to hit them with the Panther wear.
Woo!
These bad boys are nice.
Fire!
This was my Christmas / Kwanzaa gift, and I'm just so proud of Black Panther and all of the brothers that started this label, man. I mean, we have our own shoe.
Y'all ain't got a shot with Nike no more. Y'all ain't got a shot with Nike and Jordan if y'all don't want to. Y'all come on to me.
Absolutely. And I'm coming back to get probably 2 more pairs because Harvey and Isaiah, they want a pair. They want black. Right. So I got them. I'll be getting at you. Will do. Absolutely will do.
All right, I'm gonna stop doing this shameless plug and let y'all get back to the great Baba Amos Wilson.
Everybody on the panel gotta get a pair.
Come on, hey, hit me up. Y'all know where I'm at. Hit me up. Pantherwear.com, Benjamin Njai on Facebook. I'm out.
Awesome. Then not right. Then crashed the book club. Then ain't right. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we all need to pay those. We all need to pay. And so I'm that I have mines, and we'll be going back again to support, man. I mean, we got to start supporting ourselves.
Yeah,
What's
we
up?
do. I want the black ones. I got the red ones.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a pair of black also, sis. Gotta have both flavors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Tolola, you getting ready to say something, brother?
No, I'm good right now. I'm trying to tell Lily go downstairs.
All right, so let's rock and roll, sis. Let's get into it.
All right, chapter 16, investing in and trading with African nations. While few African American individual and business investors may be prepared to engage in foreign investments in Africa, the founding and owning of businesses, entering into joint ventures, partnerships, etc., there is increasing opportunity for them to engage in portfolio investments there, the buying of stocks and other equities. I went down to the bottom. The Times went on to point out that the allure of Africa is its potential for economic growth that will far surpass that of industrial nations. A few African countries, including Botswana, Ghana, and Kenya, have sustained growth rates of 5% a year in their gross national products. Further on down, family, the Times aptly warns that Africa's markets are far riskier than those of the big developed countries, in part because they are so small, which of course that makes sense. While these assertions seem quite optimistic, they point to a growing recognition of the ample manufacturing capabilities and markedly undervalued natural resources of a number of African nations. Moreover, while the current investment fad threatens to raise more money than there are stocks in Africa, thereby portending a possible market bust or collapse in the short run, long-term portfolio and direct investments may prove mutually profitable for both investors and the recipient nations. So there, he's talking about investing in Africa as far as trade-wise, and Baba is just giving us the good and the bad, which of course that goes with any stock market, but more specifically with Africa, because theirs is a lot more unstable.
Right.
But that's pretty much all I had for the first 2 pages. I'm not sure if anyone else wanted to zone in on anything else.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, they talk about stock. And you know, sis, when I thought about this, when he mentioned stock, you know how people were online going like Bitcoin crazy and Litecoin crazy, and you know, a lot of people were investing in this cryptocurrency.
Right.
You know, I was thinking, what if we would have taken that money and purchased stocks in Africa? You know, like what would have I'm imagining what that would have done for the African economy. You get what I'm saying? Like a lot of people were spending thousands of dollars investing in Bitcoin and all of these other coins. But you know, what if, and I have Dr. Boyce Watkins in mind, and this is no disrespect or diss to him, but what if he encouraged us or his following, because he has a huge following. I think over 50,000 people. Is it over 50,000 people enrolled in his Black business school?
Yes.
Can you imagine if he encouraged those brothers and sisters to pool their money together to invest in foreign direct investment in Africa? Like what that would have done, what that would do for them and also us. And instead we're investing in the stocks here. And I mean, we can do both, but you know, I just find it funny that, you know, they have stock markets over there, but we keep being encouraged to invest our money in the stock markets over here. And so Dr. Amos Wilson is saying, look, they have stocks there. They don't have a lot, but they do have stocks there, and these stocks are increasing. And I like how at the top of page 399 that he gives us the increases. So he talks about the stock market increasing in Nigeria, Kenya, and also Zimbabwe, Ghana, and Mauritius. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but you know, so I just, you know, I'm thinking that, and I didn't even know that they offer stocks over there. So that was kind of eye-opening to me. I don't know that much about the stock market, but now that we do know that they offer stocks and shares and stuff like that over in Africa, why don't we invest there as well instead of just investing in stocks over here? Brother T?
One of the things that I agree with your sentiments on that part. One of the things that they stressed on page 399 on the second chapter The Times amply warns that African markets are far less riskier than those of big developed countries, in part because they are so small. While these assertions seem quite optimistic, especially given political instability, weak currencies, small and fledgling stock markets. So, I mean, it would be great, but it seems like the infrastructure and political structure and economic structure needs to be built up in the continent as well before we can invest. Most of the bigger companies and resources, big business, are held out from other countries that's taken away from Africa. So we have to do some due diligence and look for something to invest in.
Yeah, Brother T,
Right.
everything I was about to say.
And making sure we're not investing in a European company that's exploiting their gold mines or their diamond mines or oil. These are the big resources, and because they do just like they do the same in Africa as they do here, they destroy the competition. So one good thing about cryptocurrency, if we could study it, is that if a small business is dealing with international trade, the thing about cryptocurrency is peer-to-peer transaction. So it takes out the middleman, and he won't have to invest as much in international trade if he's dealing with a group of people who understands he's using this certain currency, which may not be as weak as the dollar in Zimbabwe. You know what I'm saying? So as that paragraph says, that weak currencies. So he wouldn't have to trade in his currency, which would give him often nothing. He could trade in a stronger coin, which would be a digital currency, which would be stronger and help sustain his business even longer. So we would just have to use this technology in our advantage, and for our brothers and sisters' advantage on the continent.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too, bro. I hear what you're saying.
And they do have a coin.
And bro,
they do have a coin for I think a West African is a company that deals with people who freelance their talents and their expertise to international clients. Some they have writers freelance their activities, and they use altcoins and also use bitcoins in order to get paid. And like think about Venezuela, think about Zimbabwe, how their currencies are worth nothing. You know what I'm saying? They're burning their currency in fire. So we have to look at the technology and look how things are changing, and just like you said, Dr. Maat, just redirect it. Let's not sway away from it, but just redirect it to where we need it to be.
Right.
That was my thought on page 399.
My thought is certain parts of Africa are using alternate forms of currency because of the debt that was placed on these Eurocentric nations. That I think Zimbabwe, especially, they did have a stock market that Robert Mugabe was trying to establish before, and they took him out of power. When he was put back at when he won the election, that was the one direction he was going. Stock exchange to accomplish that, but I'm hearing that people could invest. Does be looked at because it's a fresh market and undeveloped market. Get the minds right now, we could make that developed market grow real quickly. But it's all about the mind.
Okay.
All
right.
It seems like everyone is breaking up. Just me, Sister Alima. Computer, or because I just keep hearing choppy Everyone is kind of breaking up except for you, Sister Alima. Do I sound choppy?
A little bit.
Yeah. Am I breaking up too?
Oh my God.
No, you're not, brother. Dr. Maat and the other brother breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
Oh wow. Goodness.
Sis, we need to go ahead and
All right.
Zoom. So remember I was telling you about Zoom? So you can stream to Facebook.
Yes.
Zoom. So we need to switch to that one. I mean to YouTube. You can stream to Facebook and YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, Zoom is
Okay.
pretty good.
So we're looking at doing that next week.
Okay.
Because like you said, this is kind of ridiculous. We like, oh, like, you know, you're right. You suggested that we switch a while ago. And you know how someone get comfortable. I know how I am. When I get comfortable with something, you keep using it and using it. But you're right. We need to switch to Zoom ASAP.
Yeah.
Doing it like you're breaking up, then someone else is breaking up, and it doesn't sound. Yeah. But we'll deal with it. And then, like you said, next week we'll be on to something. All right. So let's continue to the early American and European investment relations.
All right.
So I'm at the top of page 400. Says the kind of nation-to-nation investment and trade relations we suggest American nation and other African nations have a long history relative to other ethnically related nations. From the colonial era to the First World Era, the United States was a debtor nation in international accounts, owing more than it was owed. This situation was mainly due to the outstanding level of non-resident investment from abroad by European entrepreneurs, i.e. merchant houses and corporations in crucial sectors of the developing American economy. These investments included both direct investor ownership and control of invested enterprise and portfolio investments, where the investor lends to part ownership, i.e. buys equity in an enterprise, but relinquishes control of it to its managers. European investors made major investments in American land, manufacturing, as well as in insurance, trading, banking, and finance, transportation, i.e. railroads, government securities, and other commercial activities. So he's basically saying that when they came over, not only did these white boys, you know, usurp the land from the Native American Indians, or the Native Americans. When they began building the land, with loans from European nations.
That's right.
And saying that they were in outstanding debt, you know, and so this whole 1 trillion deficit that we're in now, they've always been in debt.
Yeah.
Bible said they always owe more. It says they owe more than what was owed. So we've always been in debt since the inception of America.
Exactly. Because they borrowed every penny in order to start it. They didn't have any money. They was poor when they got over here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so they went to other European nations and got money, borrowed money, and set up businesses. It continues till today, or through today. It's on page 400. I didn't highlight anything else at the bottom. Okay, so on page 401, he provides us with a chart. Says where markets are developing. So family, we're looking at this chart right here. I don't want to read it, but in this chart, he provides us with different countries in Africa and their status, whether or not they've established or is establishing a stock market, their population, and their gross national product. All right, he provides the stats for Cameroon, Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Botswana, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Kenya. I keep saying Mauritius.
Mauritania.
Mauritania.
So it's more. Well, I guess it would be Mauritius. Well, it's Mauritania now. So unless this is a different place in Africa, I thought it was Mauritania.
Yeah, I thought it was Mauritania too, but you can't write it.
Is that another country? If so, I swear I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
I'm about to Google it. I'm Googling it.
All right. In Namibia, Nigeria, South Africa, Swaziland, and Zimbabwe. So I'm not going to read this, but it's all at the top of page 441. At the bottom, beneath the table, Bible says, it has been estimated that the accumulated debt of the colonies to Britain alone amounted to $40 million, which is about $1 billion at today's prices. So in order to establish the Americans, they borrowed about $1 billion from Britain. All right. So it says by that time of the revolution, much of that was short-term credit rather than long-term investment. Nevertheless, it was vital to the smooth working of the colonial economy. The plantations of the Chesapeake, the factory houses of Norfolk and Charleston, the trading concerns of New York and Boston, the ironworks of Royal Pennsylvania and shipyards of Newport were all dependent on British finance. Mm-hmm. Immediately after the revolution, John Lord Sheffield declared that the greater part of the colony commerce was carried on by means of British capital, mm-hmm. with more than 4/5 of European imports being at all times made upon credit. Mm-hmm. Foreign money oiled the wheels of colonial commerce as well as colonial prosperity. Mm-hmm. So this is family. This is how they established the United States of America.
That's right.
They borrowed a lot of money. So they came over here. They slaughtered the Native Americans, took their land, and then borrowed capital from Britain. They said almost $1 billion in today's currency in order to build up America. So this is how they did it.
That's how they created the debt culture, and that's how they created credit and got people to fall in line with the same dumb crap and get credit as well, and then put other people in debt.
And so this has been going on since the inception of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Credit, debt, and foreign investment. Yep, credit, debt, importation, and exportation. Mm-hmm. You know, since the inception of the U.S. So it says that commanding position at the bottom, independence saw no weaning of the American economy from the mother country as far as investments was concerned. So even at the revolution, right? Even at the American Revolution, which took place, I believe, in 1776. So even after the revolution, Baba Amos Wilson tells us that independence saw no weaning of the American economy from the mother country as far as investments was concerned. Canal builders and railroad barons, symbols and architects of American expansion went directly to London for capital. Foreign investors were absolutely crucial to the success of the canal boom of the 1830s from the Erie Canal on down. Glorified by that most American board game monopoly were owned in large by the British, Dutch, and French in the 1850s. So, you know, a monopoly game, when you go around the railroad, they had one railroad called Reading. That was actually a railroad that was owned by, I believe Reading was owned by the British. And it says this right here, 1857. There was also a railroad on the Monopoly board game called the North Pacific Railroad.
That's right.
Game, sis, and not really know. You get what I'm saying, sis? I've played Monopoly, right. Monopoly 100 times and had no idea when I landed on these railroads that these were actually railroads that existed in America and that were owned by European nations. Had no idea. So he's talking about the American railroads and how you know it was the European nations which helped the Americans establish these railroads. So he mentions railroads, canals. He talks about oil. So it says, I'm at the bottom of page 402. It says railroads were the most visible beneficiaries of foreign capital, but Europeans invested in every conceivable aspect of the American economy where profits could be made. Oil in Wyoming, textiles in Massachusetts and Georgia, land and agriculture in Colorado and Kansas, fruit and oil in California, mining in Virginia, California, and Nevada. Money flowed from the London Stock Exchange and from the bourses of Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, and Vienna. Firms as crucial to the American Industrial Revolution as Western Union, AT&T, Eastman Kodak, Carnegie Steel, and General Electric all borrowed from overseas in large volume. Borrowing from abroad was very much a part of the American way of doing business in the 19th century, and it's arguably that they still are. In this section, so Baba's telling us, he said, we must not forget that the economic, political, developmental relationship between the United States and Europe, especially Western Europe, has been reciprocal and surgentistical, beneficial, empowering the white reign of supremacy in international relations. He says similar investment relations between the African American nation and African nations and communities across the diaspora, crucial to the mutual development of all concerned. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic to somebody else.
Brother T.
Brother Tawola.
Gotcha. I was on mute. My apologies.
All right.
Let's be knocking on 4-3.
Yes, Pan-African Trade Alliances.
All right. So the Pan-African Trade Alliances, the mutual economic development and political empowerment of Black America and Africa require the functional development of African American continental African business and financial alliances, as well as social cultural relations. According to Peter Drucker, renowned management consultant, business writer, and business scholar, all economics is international.
Can you say that again?
This is according to Mr. Peter Drucker, a renowned management consultant. He was a business writer and business scholar. His quote was, "All economics is international." He goes on to say that the additional lesson of the world economy is that investment abroad creates jobs at home. That's an important point to stress.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we look at what can create opportunities for us here. We need to definitely, invest abroad. But I wanted to just from this quote here, the additional lesson to the world economy that investment abroad creates jobs at home. It was the creator and CEO of Alibaba. I think his last name is Ma. Is anyone familiar with him?
CEO who?
He's the CEO of the online Chinese store Alibaba.
I'm not familiar with him.
I think his name is Jack Ma. And he made a point. President Orange was trying to say that the Chinese are stealing our jobs and stealing our, basically destroying our economy. And Jack Ma, he made a point to say, the United States is the only nation that does not take care of its people. Every other nation builds their own infrastructure and uses money in order to develop their people. He says, don't get mad at us because your strategy was flawed. Everything that you did, you outsourced. You never built your infrastructure and took care of your people. So when your big businesses grew because you found cheap labor outside, but it wasn't taking care of the people who needed the jobs in your nation. So that's why your nation and the economies is crumbling. So that man made that point. This point here states that an additional lesson of the world economy is that the investment abroad creates jobs at home. You see, America messed it all up. So I agree with anyone that says, they disagree with the antics and strategy of this nation. They don't have our best interests in mind. They don't create anything for us. They used to getting money and things done on cheap labor. Either free labor or cheap labor. And you just see how the big businesses, they run out of the country in order to get tax breaks. And so they won't have to pay the citizens any money, a living wage. So just something I wanted to stress on that part on page 4-3. Anyone have anything else to stress on this page?
Just the fact that Drucker goes on to talk about like the services trade of all developed countries that grow fast, and he was saying that the important basis for facilitating like service trade and merchandise trade. He talked about the formation of businesses alliances such as joint ventures, contracts, knowledge agreements, and outsourcing arrangements. The international business alliance need not involve any investment at all, or the required investment may be secondary, So just subcontracting things, outsourcing things, forming partnerships and joint ventures, in order to even develop just service trade or merchandise trade. So highlight that. But I don't have anything else on page 403.
Okay. I mean, do you see that as a good thing, or I mean, where could it benefit? Where's the benefit of that? What you read, Dr. Maat?
You saying the benefit of subcontracting and
yeah,
again, it's creating opportunities for us over here and then opportunities for them on the continent. And I was looking at a lot of, I know Sister Alima and I, when we used to do like the tea talk with the sisters, that was one of our concerns, how we always manufacture merchandise. Like, people always run to China, to get things manufactured. And we were talking about how we should be establishing an alliance. In fact, we did a show called Why Should We Reconnect with Africa? Do you remember that show, Sister Alima?
Uh-huh.
We did a show called Why Should We Connect with Africa? And we talked about the benefits of doing so. And, and how we always run to China to get China to manufacture things. But look what that has done. Now China is now our economic competition. That's what Donald Trump announced a few days ago. So going to China, paying them to manufacture our goods have now made them our economic competition. Can you imagine? We would have established an alliance with our brothers and sisters on the continent for them to manufacture goods, for us to create joint ventures with them and to subcontract over there. We would be empowering their economy, thus empowering ourselves. But we didn't. Everyone ran to China. Now look, China's becoming a #1 world power at this point. They're going into Africa now. They're developing Africa, establishing business over there. Now they're competing with the US in terms of economics, and then look at that situation going on in Korea. Is it over in North Korea or South Korea? Oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? It keeps on throwing shots at Trump and Trump throwing shots at him. Yeah, he's like, bring it on. Like nobody's afraid of the US anymore. They're like, bring it on. We have the technology, we have the money, and all of that came from years and years and years of us investing foreign direct investment in Korea, in China, and look at what we did. We empowered them. So can you imagine if we would have done that with brothers and sisters on the continent? And we have the ability to do it. I would love to outsource some of the animation. I've been looking for animators in Africa. Right now we subcontract the animation portion of Meltrek to some folks in the Philippines, but I would love to do that with brothers and sisters on the continent. And I actually reached out to a few of them through a website called odesk.com, but I didn't like the animation. So I didn't go with them because I gotta like it too. At the end of the day, I can't just say, it's an African brother and sister, so let me just give them my money. Like you gotta be able to do the job, right? Of course. So, but yeah, I would love.
Well, you can understand. It's me.
Brother.
Yeah, it's me. The mindset our people are in, because we have the potential to do it. Choose not to do it, and it's really, at the end of the day, we have to look at our condition now, because right now this is a war on the mind now, because the body's already gotten. So for any progress moving forward, we have to get control of our natural minds. Either the ones that or the youth that are, they must understand now how the world really operates and how our role plays and how we want to see ourselves down the line when 20 or 30 years or beyond. Say, all what is contained is back to the motherland and continent of Africa. Try to build relationships with our people that's here, that's from continent of America, and ones outside Africa, which a lot of Africans are come here on the East Coast. And I know one friend told me, said a whole bunch of them, especially in New York. And I told him, said, you never once link up with some of them, but he, mind you, he's from Africa himself, but he was raised. They're here already. So now it's only going to take initiative where we have to just play a role and like just connect in any way possible. Because you know why they're here. Because they're looking for some sense of skill or resource or some of sort. Back. So, at this stage, as I look at how things seem bleary, there's still a potential of we can come out of this. Either let's say that the odds are very against us, the efforts, and start small and grow. That's another situation. Because our people are seeking a way out. Some of them don't know how they're going to get out, but they're seeking now. Direction. Right direction, how to seek out. So that's my take on it. I'm not going to hold more time.
All right, brother. Now we appreciate, your input. Definitely appreciate your input. So at the top of page 404, Dr. Amos Wilson talks about, speaks of us establishing an African-American Continental African Business Alliance. All right. And this is exactly what Marcus Garvey talked about during his day and age, establishing an alliance with our brothers and sisters on the continent. And so he says that formal and informal alliances must become the dominant vehicles of the integration of the Pan-African economy. These alliances must pool knowledge, finance, and markets. Alliances between Black universities, their research staffs, labs, and departments, between university research labs and departments and businesses, both within the African-American community and across the African diaspora, must be operationally consummated. Alliances with banks, producers, mutual funds, and other institutions also possible. All of these things must take place within the context of an African-American nation within a nation, which makes itself effectively responsible for the nature and direction of U.S. foreign policy and trade relations relative to Africa and Black nations and peoples across the African diaspora. And this is exactly, again, what Marcus Garvey was trying to establish when he was on the scene.
Exactly, sis.
All right, y'all. So moving on to global policy is local. Global policy is local. And basically in this section, Dr. Amos Wilson was just trying to drive home that what happens globally happens, like there's a bilateral relationship between, local politics, local economics and global economics. Okay. So Sister Alima, go ahead and start us off, sis.
Yeah, I really didn't have too much, honestly, in this particular section highlighted. Just a few things on 405, where he starts off. It says his assertion corroborates Cloud's general argument. So I just started right in the center, where it says regions in the U.S. are developing their own economic interests and orientations, trade offices, and other institutions necessary to pursue them on a global scale. He further notes that the economic, social, and political incentives for individuals and groups to emphasize their ethnic identities are increasing as the U.S. becomes more ethnically diverse. A little bit further down the page, and where it starts, where it says in the 1980s, the last paragraph in that subsection, concentration of ethnic groups in a particular geographic area heightens the impact of the regionalization of foreign affairs. Ethnic organizations may not only attempt to influence U.S. foreign policy, but also to develop their own global policy. So in that section, he was talking about African Americans, and he was saying, he was giving examples and talking about foreign affairs and regionalization, using the Chinese as an example. Towards the end of the page, the drive for current immigrant groups to divest themselves of their original language, culture, national identities, and linkage to become Americanized, i.e. real Americans, is not as intense as it was previously. As implied by multiculturalism, cultural orientations seem to have been reversed. Ethnic immigrants now appear to be intensely resistant to losing their cultural identity and dissolving in the American melting pot. This means that American society is becoming increasingly globalized. That is, the interconnections between local ethnic communities and their countries of origin will be maintained, and that developments abroad will measurably influence political, social, and economic activities locally and vice versa. And that kind of said to me where it says that America does so much, they borrow so much money and do so much businesses with other countries that they're no longer concerned with people like adapting to their way of life or whatever, because they're getting so much, outsourcing so much from other countries. I guess they're kind of looking at it like, do we really have a right? You know what I mean? Right. We don't really do too much of our own. We don't really bring in too much of our own, so just kind of letting people just be as they be, as opposed to back in the day, they were a little more stricter. But it seems like this, of course, was written in the 90s, so this is curved a little bit. So they do try to encourage people to learn English and different things like that. But they have pretty much adopted a lot of different cultures, especially Spanish culture. I mean, because the average place that you go, it's Spanish-speaking options, and you call somewhere on the phone, it's 1 for Spanish, 2 for English now. So Spanish is before English. So that's all I pretty much gathered from this section. Of course, it's just talking about global policy, but that's all I had there for that particular subsection.
I think it's interesting where he says this means that American society is becoming increasingly globalized, as if America doesn't necessarily have to impress upon other nations its democratic policies or intimidate other nations, because our influence is so out there.
Right.
And it's like, you know what, you all are so under our influence, or so want to be like America. We've already, so just buy into what we're doing.
Right.
Like we're the standard. That arrogance, that white supremacy arrogance. We are the standard. We're gonna let y'all do y'all thing, but y'all know that we're still the standard. And I think Baba Wilson was letting us know that even though America has put it out there like that, there's still that underlying tendency, even though they're allowing nations to do their own thing. But in order for them to be to come up, they have to be like America. You know what I'm saying? They have to be like the white man, the white woman, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's sad that a lot of nations they feel even though they have their own culture, and you look at different things on cable television and you see, wow, man, they cooking their own food, but they'll tell you, if you go over there, they'll say, look, until we get to America or adopt American ways, we don't feel like we're free, and it's a sad commentary, but I think that's what Baba Wilson was saying there, becoming increasingly globalized. America has become that.
Yeah.
The globalization, I think Baba's also letting us know that globalization, in essence, is not necessarily a bad thing. Because he says in the latter that African American community that we need to globalize. He said that it's essential for the salvation and liberation of all local and African communities. And I agree. Of course, he's just saying that we need to set up some type of connection with us and Africa, because in essence, some of us may have individual connections, but we don't have a system, that's in place so that we can connect with Africa. The last paragraph in this section, it says, if the African American community can markedly increase its internal trading, finance, and service activities within and between its local and regional communities and markets, and within the general American market, if the African American community can become the central trading, finance, and service hub for the vast African diasporan community and build its trade alliances with this community, it can thereby stem its increasing unemployment resulting from the deindustrialization of America and create increased employment opportunities for its members both at home and abroad. And that's true, you know. So Baba is saying that even though, you know, there's things going on in America that are causing us to lose our jobs, but we have ways that we can go around it to make it so that we can establish new jobs. And also, like Dr. Maat says, while we establish jobs home, establish jobs abroad as well.
Good point.
Excellent point. But also, Sister Alima, also panel, I just wanted to, I'm thinking about that paragraph that you read on page 404, starting within the 1980s. And in this paragraph, I feel like he really drove home the point that we have the power here as African Americans on this continent to influence how the U.S. deals with our brothers and sisters on the continent. Like, you know, we look around and we say, oh man, you know, when we turn on the news, we're wondering why the U.S., you know, they're always fighting for Israel, or always investing in Israel, or doing something for Israel, because the Jews over here are influencing them to do so. That's true. Same thing with the China people. You know, we look at how they deal with China, and he talks about that in here. How even the Mexicans played a crucial part in the NAFTA debate, right? In the formulation of U.S. policy towards Mexico. So, you know, I don't think we understand the power. Well, I think that we need to, and Dr. Amos Wilson talks about this in chapter 2, how African American people need to amass social power, right, in order to influence the policies of the U.S. So the U.S. treats Africa the way it does because the African Americans on U.S. soil, we don't have the social power to influence them to treat Africa, you know, differently, basically. So it's kind of like, you know, I just want to drive home this point on page 404 that, you know, we do have the power, or we can, once we amass social power, we can change how America deals with our brothers and sisters on the continent, but we had to amass social power first. And I love how he provided us with the information. The Jewish community, they influenced the U.S. to treat Israel a certain way. The Mexicans over here, they influenced the U.S. to treat the Mexicans a certain way. Even the Chinese people over here play a part in how the U.S. treats China. And so we got to get our social power, man. We running around here worried about the wrong things.
Right. You had posted that, Doc. You was talking about how we do all this infighting and not enough supporting one another. And I think that that's part of it too. You know, we're so worried about this petty foolishness that's going on when if we were to build alliances and understand what real power is about, we could, you know, go to our so-called governments, you know, if someone was being disrespected, you know, that was African or African-American, what have you, we can go to them and say, look, this is what we're going to do because you disrespecting our persons, you know, persons that come from our nation. But because we're so disconnected, you know, they don't respect our power because we really don't have any power at this point, you know.
Yeah.
But we do need to build up that alliance and get rid of these irks and quirks that we have going on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not me. I don't know who that is.
It was
chaos.
You're in here twice.
Okay. All right. The echo should be gone. Y'all can hear me?
Okay.
Is the echo gone?
No, I still hear.
Shit. All right, let me turn off one device then.
All right, go ahead, Brother Impu.
I'm still looking at 404. That's heavy. That middle paragraph, formal and informal alliances must become the dominant vehicle of the integration of the Pan-African economy, et cetera. That's some deep stuff right there. We really need to somehow make these alliances work, you know, just this foolishness that's going on. You know, we can go into some real practical discussion about, you know, what's going on even in the so-called conscious community between the so-called popular persons right now. But I think that's hurting our people because we're looking at these conscious superheroes and and getting caught up into that instead of seeing the bigger picture of really what's going on. The Jews, the Chinese, they don't get caught up into that foolishness. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like if they do, those characters are like a distraction to us, but their money is still moving things. They're still making, they're still building railways and ships and planes to go abroad and carry money here and there. And here we are stuck, in our individual cities in the hood and ain't moving nothing. So it's like you said, we really need to socially come together and make this happen. We have more than enough money, more than enough influence to make it happen. We just need persons like yourself to take the helm.
Look like this panel. Like this panel to make it happen.
Exactly.
Like to make it happen, brother. All right, so let's move on because y'all, we get stuck, and this is a short chapter.
Right. Possibilities of
I'm not fooling with Sister Alima tonight.
I'm about to say I get through it in 5 minutes if y'all ready.
No.
Go ahead, sis. Possibilities of an African American investment fund.
Okay, so here we start talking about, once again, Baba starts talking about the African stock markets and its infancy, but he's talking about how we can still invest in Africa. And at the bottom, he says investment risk may be shared and spread across the investing African American community if large sums are invested by means of mutual investment funds and according to an investment plan in Africa. Such a fund would permit individual African American institutions to not only contribute to the growth and development of the motherland, but will also permit them to gain equity ownership of her wealth and production, as well as to establish binding ties with her, which will permit them to socially share her history and culture. So like Baba is saying, not only is investing in Africa, of course, helping our people, but it's also giving us claim back to Africa that we lost so long ago, when our ancestors were taken away. So then he goes on, he starts talking about an African Diasporan Management Corporation. He's given an example of a fund that could be created in how we could possibly raise millions to billions of dollars in order to create more infrastructure projects in Africa and as well as infrastructure projects here. And he goes on, to give more examples about the fund. He said that it could make investments in projects for development, agricultural sectors, products, plantations, projects in energy, transportation, electrical power, yada, yada, yada. And that's pretty much all I had for that little short section there.
Okay.
Anyone want to add anything?
No, I don't have anything else because you covered it, sis. I'm looking for that. Yeah, you covered it all.
Okay.
He said African Diasporan Management Corporation. He said to raise several hundreds of millions. And as Brother Impu said, we have the money system to implement. Yeah, the money isn't the issue. It's the
mentality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have the money to implement these ideas. An African Diasporan Management Corporation to create and raise hundreds of $millions to invest in long-term infrastructure projects. We have it. I mean, we have it and we have the ability to do it.
That's right.
It's the mindset.
It's so much to build it. It's so much to build on a continent.
Yes.
We can pick a nation and just start building the infrastructure, just like China. They have an agreement with, like, say for instance, like I say Liberia. They have an agreement to build the roads, to build the schools, to build the hotels, things that that a nation would need in order to attract tourism. And there's so many things that we could do
Actually, Nigeria.
to bring anywhere.
And those are the type of jobs that African people should have.
Right.
But said they're subletting their work to the Chinese, so the Chinese are getting paid.
Right.
Instead of the African people.
Just think about what happened in New Orleans, right? And New Orleans is a tourist town, right? So everyone in New Orleans is doing hospitality because that's what it's known for. So it's a beautiful thing that we won't need much when it comes to innovation, just for simple services to be created by us. It may take a little bit more time, planning, and resources to build bigger infrastructures, but we can do a lot of things, like maybe hotels and other services to at least get people to the continent and get them interested in being there. To tour to see what the nations have, you know.
I agree.
I definitely agree.
And there's a lot of things just take Senegal for instance. There's so many regular type of businesses that Africa could benefit from. Just think laundromats, for instance. You know what I mean? Daycares, like things like that. Like they have restaurants and places where you can get your hair and nails done. But things you really need, like more schools, more apartment complexes, more grocery stores,
training
water systems,
water systems that actually work.
Water
like
systems, right.
This type of stuff is what they really need, and we can invest in that. We can make that happen. Like we could literally have 10,000 American dollars and take that over there and start building a little small community with that money, because it almost doubles to triples in their money.
Do you think it's a trick? Do you think it's a trick from the European that they would charge so much for equipment and necessary material to build the infrastructure if we would try to go over there to help?
And see, and the way that would come in is we would have to actually have a fund like Baba is talking about set up that will already cover those bases, so that when we know our fund, we know how much our project is. We get our fund, we project our numbers, and then we use our own money. And of course you might have to get licenses and different things like that to build in foreign countries. But as far as using equipment and things like that, if we have the money, then we should be able to find it, hopefully, maybe locally, and be able to rent those equipments and things from African people.
That's true.
People, you hear me?
Yes.
You're talking about structure, how much fun. It lets me go back and be off topic for a brief bit about how this brother wanted to establish a school system. And when I'm hearing now feedback and how much it takes, it lets me go back and say, it sounds good that you want this surplus of money. But the biggest question is, how are you going to house and establish what you need necessary to not only purchase, let's say, a school, university, but maintain it? Right. It's a lot, and it's going to take more than just the amount you ask for, because you have to pay for housing, food, shelter, and protection. And last time I checked, and I'm not sure if your ladies still have children that's either adults or still young, but tuition. Because if we look at the average household right now, for most that's black, they are run mostly by women now, right? If you're going to put this and establish this, y'all know what I'm talking about. Where are the women going to have the money to cover these tuitions for their children, especially if they have more than one? It ain't going to be cheap. It's going to be like...
I agree.
There's a lot of things that we don't ask these questions, but as I come to solidify these things down, I say, these are very logical questions to people that schools would ask these questions, must answer. A lot of us don't think because we feel we need this. Yes, we do, but there's a process in how to go about properly, because the minute lets you attain it, it's gonna be, you're not gonna hold it long. Always the end game is, once you have it, you always gotta figure out how you're gonna maintain it for the long haul. If you're not figuring that, then it's irrelevant. I don't care how much money you have.
Right, you gotta maintain.
So when people there you go. They ask that brother that question. Yeah, they ask the brother, Dr. Omar this question, there's pushback. So these questions have to be asked now. And the way we are now and how times are now, we cannot mess around now. This stage. We got to be sure clear that everything's laid out. No, has to be laid out. Everybody can understand. Y'all follow? We'll continue.
I agree. I don't think it was our fault either.
That's good. Good point. But as the point the brother Chaos just made, once you establish, government helps you maintain through government funding because you're bringing an economy
Exactly
to their place. So that's when you have all the funding, and because you're employing, you're paying taxes. So all these things come once you establish a viable business.
That's right.
So yeah, we do have to have a 5-year, 10-year plan and implementing that first start. But we also understand that we're not operating as a sole entity by ourselves. We are going to a nation which we also will have help from the said government. So we won't be alone, I don't think.
No, we wouldn't.
Right. That's a good point though. Most definitely a good point.
Especially in reference to Umar. That's a very good point. He never proposed a actual plan. He proposed somewhat of a plan, but he didn't propose enough as far as funding is concerned and maintaining.
Yeah, he left a lot of holes.
Yeah, he left a lot of gaps. That's why I never donated.
Yeah, same here, sis. Like you said, same here. Because he didn't, like you said, he didn't show us a plan for how was he going to maintain the bills? How was he going to, what was the salaries going to look like?
Right.
Taxes on the building that he bought. Like you said, he didn't provide us with enough information to make us feel confident that he would be able to maintain this school.
Right.
And just think about this. I just don't think people know. I don't think people know what it means is what it takes.
He didn't know. He didn't know.
No, not a lot of people do, brother. Not people don't. And I just now start to come realization as reality sits. I'm thinking, it sounds good. It sounds like an idea, but when you look at the more underlying of the income it's going to take, when you really break the numbers down, it is not a reality.
That's right.
Yeah, when he initially asked for $250,000 and he said this is how he wanted, this is the amount of money he needed to open the school. Sis, I laughed.
It was $4 million.
I laughed. I was like $250,000. I said that's nothing.
Especially the school that he was talking about building. You talking about housing children?
Right. It was ill prepared.
Yeah.
It was ill prepared. You have institutions like George Mason University in DC. When in 1800s when they start to fall, they fell on resources. They sold 273 slaves in order to keep their school going.
Wow.
Wow.
They had resources. Unfortunately, they sold our ancestors, but they fell on hard times because they didn't realize they had the gump to stay afloat.
Right.
It's just one of those things that happens. We have to think about that in the long run. And he brought up a great point. We have to establish, maintain, expand, and allow to grow. But that has to be in the planning stages. And we have to realize that we have to, as Bob Wilson put in his book, build that social resource.
Exactly.
And that comes from connections. That comes from talking to people from this side of the Delta and going abroad and making sure we have all our T's crossed and our I's dotted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Isn't it ironic, brother, that we read in this chapter and all what has been played while the so-called Eurocentric New Year year ends, we're going to their so-called New Year. That it all plays for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. This is all a testament, a lesson. So I'm convinced nothing really happens by coincidence. Everything is structured and happens purpose.
That's true.
This chapter is written in Testament to let you know the real blueprint of how you're supposed to go about.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
So really, this is why I tell people this has to be in every household, every so-called Afrocentric school. They have to know this and understand it well. Just like the Claude Anderson books that he has to from the Paradigms. This also has to be a essential piece as well, because this is a blueprint where you have to go out how you go on the street.
That's right.
Go about attaining power properly. And mind you, people should know with this journey, it's not going to be easy, especially with us as people. But know what proper instructions and steps to go about. I guarantee you, the chance of failure is very minimal, especially when it comes to us when we set our mind to anything.
Exactly.
When we set our mind to anything, we convinced, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it to the best, and do it outshine them to everybody, so the whole world to see. So they can't sleep on as much. You know, so I like this part of the chapter. It sets a real home. It's solidified.
And I agree with you that this book should be in every African Center school and taught. I think this should be a class.
I agree too. It should be an economics class. I agree.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. So let's move on with the bottom of page 407, the power of investment funds. He says, if large and savvy enough, international mutual funds can possibly come to wield very significant clout in their invested nations. Mutual funds may in some ways take over the financing role of big banks and quasi-governmental institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The roles of the World Bank and the IMF are being undermined to such a degree by private capital. And Bauer was 100% correct. Remember, this book was published in 1998. He transitioned in 95. But today we see that they're using a lot of private capital. I'm thinking about prisons right now, and they use a lot of private capital in order to build even prisons. All right. So he was saying that back then, he started seeing it back then, that that private capital was starting to undermine like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And we see that today in 2017, how that they're using a lot of private capital to fund a lot of projects. All right. So page 408, I'm at the bottom where he says private capital flows, but notes the problem is going to only about 20 countries. So that's, I think this is talking about, I don't know why I highlighted this, the World Bank president. Okay, the World Bank president, Lewis Preston, makes a similar distinction. He points to the ballooning private capital flows, but he said notes that the problem is that's going to about 20 countries. The successful adjusters in Latin America and Asia, East Asia, the World Bank, he acknowledges, shouldn't be lending these countries money. This means that in the future, the bank should leave the traditional financial work in countries such as Thailand and Mexico to the private financial engineers already flocking there. It should concentrate on places that private capital won't touch. So basically, he's saying that they were using a lot of private capital to fund different projects, but they were funding these projects only in certain areas. And that the areas that were unfunded by private capital, they were saying that those are the places where the World Bank and IMF should continue to fund. But, you know, again, this book was written about 22 years ago, 20 some odd years ago. And so I don't think that, I think that since then, private capital now has definitely undermined the World Bank and IMF, because you hear a lot of, I mean, not that the bank isn't still relevant, they are. And you do have banks going around still investing, but you hear a lot of private capital being used to fund a lot of projects.
Yes.
Right. All right. So he goes on to talk about a quote from the Wall Street Journal. I'm at the top of 409. Says perhaps viable funds financed by the African American community can help to empower African nations to neutralize the negative and maladaptive policies of the IMF, World Bank, and private financial corporate cartels. Remember, I believe it was in the last chapter or the chapter before that, Baba Amos Wilson gave us a list of the pros and cons of the IMF and World Bank. I remember, Sister Alima, you read it. He presented us with the statistics, and he showed us that that their strategy didn't work. Right. That they would end up going into these countries, letting them borrow money, and then the countries would begin to get in debt. And so it didn't work. I forgot exactly now. I want to go back because I hate bringing up something and not being able to quote it directly. But he presented us with some quotes. was in race and economics, and he was talking about the IMF and World Bank, and he was saying that
I think it should be in race and economics, probably.
Okay, yeah, he was basically saying that the countries that that the IMF and World Bank invested in, they were worse off.
Right.
You know, once they came. Yep, it's on page 370, y'all. At the top of 370, he says that the World Bank put out reports in 1990, and it said they only had a success rate of 32%. In 91, they had a success rate of 26%. And it said in March 1993, the report pointed out that lending to the World Bank's best customers in Asia is declining while lending to Africa. Yeah, so yeah, they had a small success rate. So these countries, once the World Bank and IMF went in there to invest, they only had a success rate of 32% and 26%, which is extremely low. Extremely low. And on page 68, 368 to 369, Dr. Amos Wilson, he breaks down the cons of the World Bank and IMF investing in these developing or underdeveloped countries. So anyway, moving on to international trade centers. I really like this this section right here, Sister Alima, because he talked about how we should establish, you know, a trade center here on U.S. soil,
right,
that teaches us how to trade internationally, teaches us different languages, referrals, brokerage, something that maintains different programs such as exporting and importing development, how-to sessions, educational programs, conferences and seminars. So he gets into that. So let's go ahead and read that, Sister Alima, page 409.
Okay, so Baba starts talking about international trade center, and Baba says that the main purpose of the trade centers would be to stimulate and promote international trade between the African American community and the nations of the world, especially the developing nations, e.g. the African diaspora nations. Additionally, the trade centers would provide one-stop complexes, which would handle all aspects of trade negotiations and transactions. A look at some of the program services and projects of the Harlem Third World Trade Institute gives some idea of the scope of service that could be provided by well-managed trade centers. The concept for the proposed International Trade Center is a very intriguing one, as the prospectus published by its proponent indicates. So did you want to read all of these?
I mean, we don't have to, sis.
So they basically, he talks about the purpose of the complex is to provide a multi-use 24-hour activity center that will function as a business center for the United States international trade. It is hoped that the center will be a catalyst for the social and economic revitalization of it's for the Harlem, but just in general, that they're giving us the model. They have a little list here that talks about program services and projects of the Harlem Third World Institute. It's at the top of 410. I'm not going to read it, family. Then we're going to talk about services. The complex and its facilities are expected to encourage technological development in health and agriculture, foster trade, education through conferences. Participants, developing nations and businesses, international financing institutions, United States agencies involved in international trade, major U.S. corporations will participate in the project. The concept, in general, the ITC complex is designed to achieve the following goals: establishment of New York as a center for trade for developing nations, the collection and dissemination of trade information from the U.S. firms, the provision of service for U.S. companies, particularly small and medium-sized companies, which are unable to send representatives. I'm a 411 family. Fundamentally, an upstart trade center may be a little more than a computer facility with a conference room attached. The computer facility would maintain a complete and up-to-date data bank containing businesses, entrepreneurs, agencies, and the like located in African diasporan countries who are seeking various services, business contacts and deals, joint ventures, etc. African American businesses, professionals, persons, and services interested in international trade, financial and consulting services, governmental agencies and bureaus, private financial services, transportation services, etc. All the information which can facilitate the making and closing of trade deals and agreements A partnership with the local community college, university, or Black Studies department, and perhaps with helpful business firms and corporations, can help build a program of services like the ones earlier cited. Such a program, more fully described, could make the following offers adapted from a brochure from the Harlem Third World Trade Institute. So then they go on to break down the services, which would be brokerage services, referrals, language laboratories, translation, conference seminars. Then they go down to break down the programs that could be included in these centers. Export, import, development, how-to sessions, educational programs, international networks, arts and crafts merchandise marts, job skills data bank services, and foreign visitor services. So now I'm on the last page, 414, last paragraph. Institutions are social organizations whose central purpose is to further public welfare. They include a relatively stable set of social attitudes and relations, which endow groups and their members with legitimacy and power, status and resources of various kinds. The power of a society is coterminous with the power of its institutions. The weakness or powerlessness of the African American community reflects the scarcity, ineptitude, dysfunctionality, and inappropriateness of its institutions. Appropriate, efficient institutions in the African American community, such as the trade centers just discussed, would contribute heroically to the empowerment and liberation of that body politic. They must be established with urgent care if the community is to secure its survival.
Now I'm just like, sis, I wish I had like a bomb sound, like when you read that paragraph, Sister Alima. So while you was reading that
was powerful.
That was powerful.
Yes.
That's what Wilson said. The power of a society is coterminous with the power of its institution. So
Yes.
I've been saying for years now, and I even said this when I went to New York, that we have to upgrade our thinking. It's great that we have programs, but not only do we need programs, we need to start institution building our own damn institution. Programs are cool, little things are cool, but we need institutions at this point. And Dr. Amos Wilson said the weakness or powerlessness of the African American community reflects the scarcity, ineptitude, dysfunctionality, and inappropriateness of its institutions.
Right.
You know, so that was like, I actually have that underlined.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even have it just highlighted. I underlined it because that was very powerful, sis. We need to start institution building, and we are. You know, we are. You got brothers and sisters who are building African-centered schools. You got brothers and sisters, you know, who are doing, we're definitely institution building. Brothers and sisters are building businesses, you know, physical ones and ones online. So we're definitely, you know, I always try to keep in mind that we're definitely doing it. But you know, we need more of it. I'll just say that. And I just hope I'm around. Sis, I was telling my family the other day when we were reflecting on cooperative economics and collective working responsibility. I was saying that one day, sis, I hope that I'm alive to see I want to see another Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see an area where I go in the area and it's a Black district where we own everything. The land, the businesses, the schools, the temples, the recreation centers. You know, I want to see that. And hopefully I'll be able to see it in my lifetime. But we have to start as a nation building institutions. So when you read it, I'm telling you, I wish I had bomb sounds or something like that to like hit while you were reading it. But we definitely need to start institution building, sis.
Well, the most important thing, that one of the things I seen that was that struck me was the programs, and we have to educate the participants before they go, because some people just don't know what to do, and programs and help influence people and help teach them the necessary skills that they need. So that's one thing that always struck me, and that I kind of gravitated to when Sister Lehman was going past through the program session. I think we all need that, especially when it's time for it's like institution building. So
absolutely, the know-how. The know-how, bro. I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm looking at programs up on page 412. The actual know-how.
Good chapter.
It was a wonderful chapter. This was a wonderful chapter, and I'm looking forward to reading chapter 17 next week. He said empowerment through wealth. So I'm looking forward. I think this is another, I don't know how short it is. Let me see. About 30 pages. We're looking at about 30 pages. And I think we can come through this, Sister Alima. What do you think?
Yes.
All right. So next week we'll be back on. Next week we'll be reading chapter 17, Empowerment Through Wealth. Empowerment through wealth. I'm looking forward to chapter, to reading it, to studying it, and discussing it with you all next week. So any last word?
Are we now
Are
we now at the middle of the book?
Yeah, finally.
Yes, brother. Damn. You know, I'm like, wow. We're halfway through the blueprint for Black Power. I think Sister Alima and I scared a few folks. We scared a lot of folks when we said we wanted to start with this book. But at least since we got to wean out who was who, you know what I mean?
They'll be back when we read the shorter books. They'll be back.
Oh, man. All right, Sister Alima, anybody want to close us out? Any closing words?
Not really, just powerful chapter. Thank everybody for joining us. Of course, to get the links every week, www.lily.poetespeaks.com. Pick up Perceptions of a Misplaced African or some Meltrek or some Panther wear while you're there. And that is all from me.
That's all for me. Sis, any plans? What are you guys getting in tonight? Because everybody...
I have some homegirl and her husband. They came in to get a reading, and they're probably downstairs now, actually. I thought it was going to take longer, so I was going to slide out, but we done now, so... Probably figure out something to do tonight. Ben's on is here, so I guess she'll be here with the kids, and we'll go do some grown folk stuff, but that's about it.
I can dig it. My family is meeting. One of my cousins, she's hosting like a game night.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then Jalen wants to go to our neighbors having a party. So I'm going to let Jalen go over there for maybe an hour or two, and then we shoot to my family's house to do like the countdown and all of that and play some games and chill out. Brother T, what's going on, bro?
Oh, we still doing the Kwanzaa celebration over here, so I'm going back downstairs and partaking now.
I'm coming to you, T. I'll be there.
Come on down.
Play space too, bro.
Brother Impu, what are your plans tonight, King?
Wife just got home with the kids. We're going to celebrate a little bit, watch the ball drop, chill out. Her birthday was yesterday, so we still on that high.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, tell her we said happy birthday.
Sure will. I miss you all, too. This past month has been crazy, but trying to get some things together. You know, this business venture I have. Together for the new year and all that. But as we launch out, I just want to go in confidence, you know what I'm saying? So I love your vibe. Continue doing what you're doing. Women, my sisters, you know what I mean? My words get all jacked up because I get so excited, you know what I'm saying?
Black power.
That's right. All right. Brother Everett, any plans tonight, brother?
I don't know European. I already know us, our people are a little different from the European in regards to how we interpret the new year. I don't really go by it. I got new information, learned more things about it, so I don't really. On the dead of winter, I said it's the new year. I don't participate on that, unfortunately.
Okay, no problem, bro.
In closing, that as they said, this new year coming, we are now approaching 20 years since this book was finally released. And ironic that when we finish, we're probably going to have a nice dedication to show us that, you know, in 20 years when Baba Amos was able to get this book published now, that said, look on the world we live in now in over 2 decades now. and they'll say that we still have a whole lot of work to do. That say, what has been, this book has now come, and now it's a decision we have to make. Either we're going to seek power or remain in our subjugation and are comfortable with our own enslavement. And mind you, one of our greats say best, you think that the European is bad if he's still in power, you have not seen nothing when the next nation start to press you, especially the Asians. They're no different from the European. They're probably much worse. You know what I'm saying? Because not when they got the numbers, but they're very ruthless. The Mongolian, and people need to read some history on them because them people, man. And so, we got to get our act together. I thank y'all for having me on to this group hangout, and we look forward to more. And I will jump in every night because this is the days that I have time. So before anything else, unless I do that I might not come in on certain Sundays, so we'll see. But anything that thank you again. And what else I had to say, Marco? Just keep reading. I know most people got intimidated even knowing that there's a show every Sunday episode of this, and the book is really intimidating. And obviously when you talk about going through getting black power, it scares niggas. I like this. I'm sorry to say it, but I say it scares them. They say power. We need power. So you don't understand this is how the game works.
Right.
Not much power respect. Power defines everything. Power on stars and wherever the show. You see how this game goes. And they don't want to be talking about say I just want to be a subpart. No, I want to attain power. Yeah. So understand how the world works by power.
Absolutely, and that's what I've been saying for a minute since we've been reading this book. I've been telling my family, I said this book needs to be in every Black household because Dr. Amos Wilson teaches us how the system works and how to counterbalance the system. You know what I mean? So like when I say that this title is well deserved, he really does provide us with the blueprint for Black power. If you read it and if you not only read it, but implement it. And so with that said, brother, I'm gonna let everyone go. We've been on for about an hour and a half, and I know folks wanna, start their New Year celebrations. And I know Brother T still has the family downstairs, and Brother Impu needs to go with the wife and celebrate New Year's and her birthday. So folks, thanks for joining the discussion. I love you. We love you. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a happy and safe New Year and a happy Kwanzaa. Peace and Black power.